Supernova boss David Sears having a last-minute chat in the pit lane before the start of race 4 of the 2007 GP2 series, and there is Nicolas Lapierre, who's been forced off the grid by a stalled and it looks like boiling engine. He will take the start from the pit lane, but I worry for the longevity of that car. Ready for the start then of the race, and yellow flags waving further back down on the left-hand side of the grid as we look at it at the right as the drivers see it, and that means that we'll have another start aborted. They'll go around for another warm-up lap, and it's car number 11 stuck down towards the tail end of the grid, Pastor Maldonado. Well, his luck's not going very well, is it? He was in trouble as well, retired after 18 laps yesterday with an ill-handling car, and he too pushed off the grid. And Gareth, the temperatures not as extreme as yesterday afternoon. He's not the only one either. One of the Durango cars, Borja Garcia, and that's from third on the grid. And the bespectacled Spaniard, the man from Valencia, will have to start from the pit lane if he can start. It's just pandemonium down there. The car's clearly really marginal.
Yeah, I think Lapierre's problem is more to do with his engine change overnight. Don't forget, his engine blew yesterday in the race. They hadn't had an overnight change. When you put a new engine in, you do what you can to test it, but you can't be getting out and giving it some laps to make sure everything's plumbed in properly. Clearly something wasn't plumbed in properly on Lapierre's car, and that's why that's failed. As for the cars stalling on the grid, we've seen a few of those this year. You know, clearly these drivers are still having trouble getting these cars off the line for some reason. I think the clutch must be very, very difficult.
Well, that's going to reduce our lap distance down to 25 laps now, because they only have enough fuel for the race, and Lapierre's car, I think, has boiled. And you're right, yes, he had a crash at the end of qualifying, and it's thought perhaps that may have put some long-term damage into the engine, which then blew up rather spectacularly yesterday. But for Borja Garcia, from fourth on the grid rather, that's really very bad news indeed. The Renault-supported driver.
It's in gear.
It is in gear, yes, so that didn't help much either. And this is the time now to just really chill. Calm, focus, neutral, let everything get on. The Durango team struggling to get the external battery plugged in, ready to jump-start Garcia's car. Now he should, with Pastor Maldonado, therefore be starting from the pit lane, but we probably, I think, will not see Nicolas Lapierre. May well be, although the car wasn't puddling water from underneath, it was certainly chucking it out the back. It may well be, as Gareth said, something with the installation of the engine. Has maybe there's just a kink in a pipe or a blockage somewhere. It's just not circulating water it should be, and they haven't had a practice session or a chance to run up and down an airfield anywhere to bed the car in. So unfortunately, when you put things together, they don't always go back together the way they came apart. So now, if anybody, and I'm thinking particularly of Javier Villa here, the 19-year-old on pole position, was suffering from a little bit of nerves. Oh boy, this is really serving to ramp it up. He must be sitting there going, would somebody, for goodness sake, just let us start this thing? Because now, of course, he's the one who's been sitting longest on the front of the grid with all the heat sink building up in the car, and suddenly you've got to be worrying about his engine, Jimenez behind him, Alician, because they're the ones sitting there boiling away, the engine temperature's rising and everything else.
Yeah, it's really unfair, isn't it? You know, the poor guys, youngest driver on the grid, pole position for his home race, and all these things going wrong.
Well, let's see if we can get this thing underway at some stage before the Formula One boys want the track back. Cars coming to the grid for, what, the fourth time, half-dozenth time this afternoon. This morning here in Barcelona, sitting in the shade of the big grandstand here at the Circuit de Catalunya, trying to get this sprint race underway. Now we have a grid. The green flag's waved at the back. 5 lights will go on, and Charlie Whiting will want to get this one going straight away, but he holds them on the revs. Good start from Javi Villa. Awful start from Jimenez from second on the grid. Michael Alician up into second position, and Timo Glock showing down the inside. Look at the blue car come down the inside as Villa determines to clear off, and Di Grassi goes for glory and avoids the gravel trap. Fourth or fifth to second place, and that is the PK Sport car has gone off. The remaining PK Sport car has gone off there, and 2 others in avoidance. but no carnage at the first corner. So we have a race on our hands, and Glock looking to get by Alishin for 4th place. Couldn't quite manage it. He's got Senna. No, he's got Jimenez behind him.
I'd like to see replay of the start, Martin, I must admit. I think Via jumped the start.
Glock has gone by, so Glock is up to 4th. I make Bruno Senna 3rd. I think he is. Behind Di Grassi, he went down the Di Grassi corridor. Alishin is being swamped. Alishin's now got Jimenez behind him, and further back, Luca Filippi.
Contact, and again.
That's the Durango car. Now, was that the one that came out of the pit lane?
It's Chandok, I think, isn't it?
It's that Chandok. He's the man who had that enormous accident through the field on the run down to yesterday's first corner, and that is one of the cars, I think,
one of the
just
Campos
passed
cars,
you.
maybe, I think, was it?
Yeah, went off at the first corner.
Contact again with Chandok coming up. He just have a bit of a rub.
He's going to have him off if he can. Round towards the end of the lap in this tight new section. Filippi picks up the place anyway. And there's Andy Zuber down towards the back of the grid, the iSport car, and that is Jason Tahincioglu. Well, his race yesterday didn't last long, he didn't start, and today he doesn't complete a lap. So Javi Villa leads for Spain and for Racing Engineering. Lucas Di Grassi in 2nd, Bruno Senna 3rd. Di Grassi will last about 3 laps on those tyres, and Alishin having another monster. They're all having a monster lock-up. Yes, they are.
Yeah, I'm convinced Villa jumped the start. He crept, stopped, and then went early, so I'd like to see whether he gets penalised for that. Let's see a replay if we can.
Well, now, the other guy who had a big lock-up there, car number 20, the Dams driver, Christian Bakkerud, and rather maligned him for being very erratic yesterday, and apparently the reason is a trapped nerve in the spine. He trapped a nerve somehow in the opening couple of laps, as Timo Glock has a monster lock-up right behind whom?
Senna, behind
Senna.
Yep.
And Bakkerud apparently was in such agony he couldn't even talk to the team on the radio, and Senna's made a mistake.
That's great drive. Glock forced him into that, just all over him, and that move actually began about four corners previously. Great move.
Well, Glock, having not won yesterday behind Senna, is determined he's going to win this one from 8th on the grid, isn't he? 2 laps in, he's already on the podium, and Villa really has to disappear because Glock was comfortably half and more like a full second quicker than anybody yesterday.
Well, I spoke to the iSport guys this morning, and they said, you know, Timo is pumped for this. He really is. He's so annoyed about not winning yesterday. He felt it was his race yesterday. Here we go. Look at Villa. Oh, he's not going to show enough detail.
Oh, do you know what? I think that's particularly because Jimenez was so slow away. If he jumped it, then Alishin jumped it, and definitely Di Grassi jumped it. But Di Grassi came from 5th through the grid around the outside, survived that lock-up. Senna went down the other side of Alishin. The poor Russian didn't know where to look, and it was the Durango car that was facing in the wrong direction there, right in the middle of the group that spun everybody round. And it was just a little busy there, wasn't it? In fact, I'm saying it was a Durango car. It wasn't. It was Roldan Rodriguez right in front of Kazuki Nakajima, and he got thumped around. But, well, actually, it was his own fault for not getting away off the grid properly. He was 5th on the grid. He should not have been down there. And Filippi, this was on the first lap. Really, Rubbin's racing apparently in Luca Filippi's household as well. Yeah, he was determined not to give that one away, wasn't he? There's a lot of drivers with a lot to prove this weekend, and they're going to get around prove it. And we just saw another one there, Giorgio Pantano trying to charge his way back up through the field. Vitaly Petrov, he was responsible for a lot of entertainment yesterday, and Glock goes by for 2nd place. Javi Villa, 1.6 seconds ahead at the end of the last lap, had better step on it if he wants to win this one. He's got 23 laps to hold off Timo Glock, and I don't fancy his chances much.
No, this isn't a surprise. I mean, Glock was so fast in the race yesterday, really in a class of his own, lapping up to a second faster than anybody else. So to see him up to 2nd already today is no big surprise.
Again with Luca Filippi. Let's pick up where this is. Filippi is currently 15th. Was behind Ho Pin Tung. That's not Tung in front, so I make that Giorgio Pantano in front of him now then. And in front of him, Keiho Hirate, who pitted twice yesterday, once behind the safety car and once when the team called him in on the radio. At least that's what the Japanese thought. They were saying to him he was in 10th place, P10, P10. He made that pit in, and somewhere in the language vault between the English and the Japanese, it all went wrong. Well, Filippi is taking no prisoners, is he? That was Yamamoto he disposed of there pretty quickly.
Or was it?
That was Ho Pin Tung, you're right, that was the pass on Ho Pin Tung.
Didn't give him too much racing room there, did he, Tung?
Not an awful lot. You don't have to, I suppose. But then This is Timo Glock. This is the replay of the move for second on Lucas Di Grassi.
Oh, he came from a long way back, didn't he? Di Grassi kept the door wide open there.
Well, Di Grassi, either was caught by surprise at the rate of approach, or I don't know.
Well, it does seem to be, Glock seems to be very strong on the brakes too there. Don't forget, he took a few places there yesterday when he was coming back from his pit stop. I think he did Di Grassi there yesterday, funnily enough, didn't they? Same corner.
Mike Conway with the yellow highlights on his wing, and he is now up to 11th place. Don't forget, from Bahrain, after failing to make any headway in the feature race, he started from right in the back in the sprint race and charged right the way up the order into, what, 5th position, something like that?
5th, yes.
Yeah,
so great drive, actually.
It looks like he's on the way for another one. Retirement 5th. Well, there's the gap, first to second. Over 2 seconds, exactly 2 seconds at the end of the lap. Timo Glock, 1:30.69, 4 tenths quicker than Javi Villa on that last lap, at the fastest lap of the race for him at the moment, Timo Glock. And it's just phenomenal out there. You can't keep track of all the moves. That was Giorgio Pantano going past Mike. No,
it was past Conway. Yeah.
So Pantano passing Conway. I have to say, I'm not sure a Campos racing car has been driven quite as ferociously in the past as Pantano is currently pedalling that one at the moment. He, like quite a few drivers after yesterday's race, has got a real grudge around the circuit de Catalunya in these GP2 cars, and Felipe is really having a good run as well.
Just got out of shape on the brake in there and just ran wide and missed the apex as a result. 22nd on the grid. He's 14th now, Gareth, and if we had time we could go through and tell you perhaps who has gone a long way up the order, but there's too much going on. Now, Javi Villa, 1.64 compared to 2.0 ahead after the last lap, so the gap is coming down. I mean, he's lapping quickly, V. He's lapping 31.0 his last lap there. Nobody else is even close to that except Glock, critically, who did a 30.6. Everybody else in the mid to high 31. So Villa pulling away from everybody except Glock, who's catching him.
Di Grassi and Senna, 3rd and 4th. Sergio Jimenez, 5th. Michael Alishin, 6th. Vitaly Petrov, 7th. Kazuki Nakajima, 8th. 9th, Christian Baccarud, and 10th, Antonio Pizzonia. And Pizzonia's come from 19th on the grid to 10th place. So he's risen very strongly as well, driving himself up the order. Exciting racing everywhere you look here in race 4 of the GP2 series. The Barcelona sprint race has really been quite electrifying. Timo Glock again the fastest man on the circuit in 2nd place, chasing race leader Javi Villa, the man who started from pole. Glock, of course, from 8th position, and a big queue of cars right the way down the order here. This is a phenomenal battle from Michael Alishin, Sergio Jimenez, who are 5th and 6th, then Petrov, Nakajima, Baccarud, Pizzonia, Pantano. There's no breathing space. Harati, Felipe. There's not more than a second between any car from 5th down to about 21st, our last running car. We have lost Andy Suchek, again retired. Jason DeHinchey we saw. Roldan Rodriguez spun out on lap 1. Nicolas Lapierre did not start. But the rest of them, as you can see from that camera in the curbs, are just nose to tail, and that is very much the way the lead battle is now. 1.6 seconds at the beginning of this lap, Gareth. It's not even 0.4 now.
No, Glock took almost a second out of him that last lap there. The fantastic lap, 30.5 time. He's right with it now. This is a formality of the look of it, isn't it?
Well, Javier Villa, if he finishes on the podium, will certainly be very happy with that, but a little bit perhaps bittersweet, because starting from pole position from 8th place in race 1, he might have hoped perhaps to be able to hold off the others, but it didn't work for him. Unfortunately, his teammate should have been the stopper in the bottle, just didn't get away from the grid properly, and Glock is now all over him and will pass, no question about it. The only question is whether it's this lap, the next, or if Javier Villa really defends heavily, perhaps the lap after that. Well, Villa got a good exit there, but Glock is just so fast everywhere. It must be a little bit like having Valentino Rossi behind you, but we said actually about this new sequence that it is tailor-made for Valentino Rossi's ability on the brakes, but Timo Glock seems to be able to dig as much out of it as Rossi perhaps will.
He's just going to pick up a toe here and tyre perfectly for the braking area. Here we go, look at that, fantastic slipstream.
It's like he's got another gear. When he gets into the toe, suddenly, whoosh, accelerates up hard behind the car.
So easy, wasn't it?
Yep, and now you can see, look, from a quarter of a second behind, he's now half a second in front. That's an enormous difference. The speed is so high down the straight there, it really makes a big difference.
Poor Ovier didn't even bother to try moving across to make him work for it, did he?
He couldn't, could he? It was like, it's like Glock had been fired off a catapult. He just came straight by him. No amount of moving over would have made Glock's car any slower. Now, Di Grassi looking a little uncomfortable in third. This is the view from behind, and just look at the way he comes up behind him. And was Via maybe just trail braking a little early?
Right.
I think perhaps.
Right. Yep. I think Via, in fact, Glock thanked him. Yeah,
that was the racing driver equivalent of the foot coming off the peg that you see so often in MotoGP. Via made it easy for him. And Gareth, that's thinking driving from a 19-year-old, not desperately trying to hang on against all odds to the lead, but think, you know, come on, he's going to come past now, so let's let him get by and not ruin our own tyres and our own race.
I mean, you could argue that. You could also argue it's nice to see a scrapper, isn't it? Who really, you know, someone like, I always remember when Alessi first got into F1 and shook the establishment up. Senna was gobsmacked, I think, at Alessi's cheek. Oh, it was close. Teammates Philippi and Conway.
David Sears won't be pleased if they collide. Well,
I think luckily Conway saw him coming and gave him plenty of room, otherwise there'd have been contact there.
Yeah, but then see, Conway loses 2 places.
I know, I was stupid, but better that than go off. He had no option but to give Philippi room there.
Well, you see, there's two ways of looking at that as well. The other one is the Ralf Schumacher, Eddie Irvine option, which is never to give ground, even if it means an accident. Is that Tung? No, that's Yamamoto, I think, with the yellow helmet.
Maldonado, wasn't it? Yeah, Tung and Maldonado, that was.
Oh, it was Tung, so... that was the battle for 16th. Conway goes down to 13th. Oh, my goodness me. And Bakkerud loses a spot. Now, that was...
Pitonia going past him.
Yes,
Pitonia right
up to 10th. Bakkerud, presumably, if he had a trapped nerve last night, not really feeling that great this morning either, I'd have to say. And he's trying his best, but Pitonia is like a man with a bee in his helmet, isn't he? And in comes Tung. Of course, the BCN team, based here in Barcelona. And Bakkerud is, I'm afraid, they are queuing up to have a go now. Christian Bakkerud seems to have got to the end of his painkillers, I think. And without wishing to make light of it, I think that's the end of him at the moment.
That was a silly move from Maldonado.
Well, that was born of frustration, and that was a very long way away from being on, and I'm afraid Tung probably ended up with broken suspension there. Oh,
this is Philippi on Conway, isn't it? Yeah, that's a replay of Philippi on Conway.
He loves that corner, doesn't he, Philippi? He comes from miles back.
I think that could be described as optimistic, that move.
Yeah. Interesting when you get an onboard view again, particularly with Philippi. Look how tight his knees are up under the dashboard. He's got a lot of padding around them, lots of foam around them. He's quite a lot taller, perhaps, than most drivers in the car. Well, Tung's coming to have it checked. Look at the steering wheel. The steering wheel's on full left lock, and the wheels are straight ahead.
Yeah.
So it's jumped a couple of teeth on the rack, hasn't it? Yeah. If they send him back out, he's going to get somewhere, and suddenly it'll be freewheeling steering. Bakkerud goes down another one, and we're queuing up now. Again, look at the knees, right behind the steering wheel, right up under the dash there. Right, so you'll be able to get in one of these, Gareth. I never will, that's for certain.
That's very true.
I don't think
6'12" or whatever you are, Martin. Yeah, no chance.
That's not going to happen, is it? Just no way. See, that's always my excuse as to why I'm a commentator and not a Formula 1 ace. Apart from the fact I couldn't drive a soapy stick.
Say nothing.
No, indeed. Timo Glock leading there by
well wide.
1.6, and this is Bakkerud's pretty much a replay of yesterday's race. Bakkerud just could not keep it consistent because he was just struggling so much with the pain, and it very much looks as though that's the case. Luca Filippi lining up to take 12th away from him. And at this rate of progress, actually, Filippi might not be too far from the... Problem is, there are so many quick drivers coming from the back, like Filippi is, to try and get into the points, and they just don't go far enough down the order.
Again, he locked his rears then and just missed the apex by a good couple of metres. He's got to settle down a bit if he's going to make an impression.
Filippi, settle down. There's words you don't often hear in the same sentence. Timo Glock continues to lead, and the gap is growing over Javi Villa and Lucas Di Grassi. So Christian Bakkerud in now 12th position with Luca Filippi from British Formula 3, as was Conway. And Maldonado coming from World Series by Renault. And they just go straight by. Look at that. Down the fast lane, past the man with the caravan, and Baccarud. He's doing a good job considering the amount of pain that he was reportedly in last night. But
kind of makes you wonder what the point is, though. Really,
well, just to grit his teeth and get on with it. I mean, he won't be learning much. He won't be feeling much, and really, he probably physically would be better just saying go into the pits and
get ready for Monaco.
And you know, if you were Dave Price, you might almost be saying, listen, Christian, come in now, for God's sake, do yourself a favour.
I think by the look of it, actually, that's what he's decided to do. He's back right off, isn't he?
Well, he is probably driving quicker than I could manage, but not much at the moment. I think that tells you all you need to know. Everybody's just gone by with Luca Filippi again.
He's having a go. Zuba's gone by the outside. That was Filippi defending on the inside. Zuba's done him down the outside.
That was a great move by Andy Zuba. Goes past Filippi for 12th. Kohei Hirate in front. And here is our race leader, Timo Glock. Javi Villa still just about doing the same speed, 0.1, 0.2 slower per lap. So Glock not really rampaging away as he did in yesterday's race, but yesterday, of course, he knew he had the problem that lots behind him had stopped for tyres, and he had yet to do so. So he doesn't need to push it. Of course, the idea is you win by the minimum amount possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, it's called the sprint race. It's still a reasonable distance, and certainly you need to make sure your tyres are in good shape for the last third of the race. If you push too hard too soon, you will struggle for grip towards the end of the race. So he's being sensible. He's gone past Villa. He's very comfortable in front, so just enough to stay ahead of Villa and open the gap just very slowly each lap.
Only one driver in the 1 minute 30 gap, and that is Andy Zuba, the second iSport car. He's just set the fastest third sector time of the entire race. He's at 1 minute 30.89. And that's not the fastest race lap so far. That's still gone, I think, to teammate Timo Glock. So got Villa, Di Grassi, Senna. Now, I haven't seen much of our race one winner, but he is closing down Lucas Di Grassi, and I sense that it may not be long before the Brazilians change position. Senna looks to have more pace. Di Grassi was a bit non-committal yesterday about the way that the race went and whether or not he was happy with it. I think perhaps he thought he should have been higher up and was a little bit perplexed at why not quite as happy with the car as maybe you should have been. But Senna is definitely getting right into shooting distance. Not this lap, but in a lap or two he might be right in there.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, in that situation, he's sat in the car there that's been the dominant machine for the last 2 seasons. Really, you have to look at yourself in the first instance. The driver has to look at his own performance and see what's going wrong, because I can't imagine ART have dropped the ball after 2 years being at the front.
Do you think? No, I think you're probably right. Well, the real worry for Di Grassi is that he was third, but a guy who's never driven the cars before and who had no practice, had 2 laps of practice before he had a mechanical problem. So basically, his introduction was qualifying. Came 6th.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, that's a real worry for Di Grassi, because that shouldn't be happening. Alician should not have been so close to him on his first encounter with the cars. So yeah, that's another thing perhaps that, you know, it's all well and good that everybody's in the same car, but they're all in different teams. If you almost get duffed up by a teammate you've never even spoken to before, then that's really a bad thing.
No, I agree. But it's difficult to do that. You know, I mean, often many drivers are reluctant to look at themselves. They'll look at anything else and blame anything else but themselves. I'm not saying that's Di Grassi's case, but a lot of drivers do that.
Kazuki Nakajima, our race director, or our TV race director, spent a lot of time using this onboard camera view yesterday, because Nakajima was just electrifying. Been really disappointed so far this season, Nakajima. He had such bad luck in Bahrain, and again yesterday, through no fault of his own, was taken out of the race. Somebody had made a mistake in front of him and almost ran off, and Nakajima couldn't avoid running into his back wing. It damaged his tyre, nearly punctured his tyre, damaged his suspension as well, and Nakajima was dropped way down the order from what was an enormously exciting and combative race that should have produced an awful lot more than it did. And so again, he's out there coming from the back with a lot to prove, and not sure that they're designed to be driven quite that much on the lob stocks, but oh goodness, can you imagine if Formula 1 cars had to corner like that still?
The Gilles Villeneuve approach.
Well, yeah, very much, except that one had air in all 4 tyres. So Kazuki Nakajima in 8th place at the moment. Vitaly
31, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
The back at the front, Villa is slowly dropping back into the clutches of Di Grassi and Senna. He's losing about 2/10 a lap to the pair of them. The only thing that might work in his favour is when Senna catches Di Grassi, which he is again about 1/10 a second a lap. they'll be so embroiled fighting that Villa might be able to get away.
Just a further little point on Nakajima in Bahrain. From 17th, he got 1 point in the feature race. From 15th on the grid, he got 1 point in the first race here. So we'll have to see what he can manage. He got 1 point from the sprint race for the fastest lap. So let's see if he can manage 15th to the points in this race. Now here we go. This is getting round towards the end of the lap, and this, if Nakajima doesn't overrun himself, is where he passes Petrov, I think.
This is turn 3 we're in here. This is fairly early in the
Oh yes, indeed, yeah. It's a long right-hander. Well, showing the running order further behind him with the, Christian Bakkerud, although we haven't seen it, has gone into the pits. And I'm not sure whether that was his decision or the team's, but somewhere between the two of them, they should have been saying, right, okay, forget it, let's just knock this one on the head, because it's just not going to happen for you, and keep yourself healthy. As Gareth says, Monaco is next up. From the onboard view of Kazuki Nakajima to the exterior shot, and he really is pushing very hard. He doesn't mind too much, Gareth Rees, what the tail end of the car does he? He just likes to make sure that where he's looking is where he's still headed.
Oh, he's a very exciting driver to watch. As we said yesterday, he just needs to calm down, just take it down a notch on the excitement stakes. But he's a good little peddler.
Oh, and that's Alishin. Alishin has spun off. And that's exactly where Adrian Zaug went yesterday, out of the final corners. Go on! He's lost the engine now.
Looks
yes,
like,
I think he has.
Yeah.
Oh, and with 9 laps to go, are we going to see a safety car out? I think we might have to, because I wouldn't want to be running across the road with the cars so much spread out as they are. And Alishin is sitting in the cockpit, but that's it. He's lost the engine. Well, there you go. That's a little bit, that particularly is a little bit of unfamiliarity with the car, because if you don't really have experience of having raced them and having spun them and stuff like that, you don't know how to get it gyrated. And with Nakajima right in front of us.
Yeah, what he does is he clips the apex curb on the exit corner of the chicane, and they're big curbs, and if you just get it too wrong, you just hit it too hard, you have to hit it, but not too hard. Hit it too hard and it just spits you out.
Well, luckily, he stopped absolutely where he was and left everybody enough room to go round on the outside. But it's when he tries to get it going, look, he's looking down, looking at the gear selector indicator.
But you're right. I mean, if his car is not familiar with, he's not used to it, and the first time he spun it, he doesn't know what to grab and what to do.
Absolutely.
Just lose the engine.
So every semi-automatic gearbox has its own little quirks and foibles, and clearly he wasn't quite up to speed with those. Timo Glock still our race leader after 17 laps, and Javi Villa in second, Lucas de Grassi in third, Bruno Senna in fourth. You're looking at second, third and fourth together here, and they are just creeping up on Villa.
It's consistent. It's consistent.
Yeah.
De Grassi's catching him by 2/10 a lap, and Senna is catching de Grassi by 1/10 a lap.
Yeah.
And that's happened the last 4 or 5 laps.
So we're looking for a grandstand finish, perhaps for the podium positions.
Here comes Nakajima.
Nakajima is 7th, around the outside of Petrov, going to force Petrov in too deep. Can he do him around turns 2 and 3? Well, not yet, but he needs to hurry up, because there's a queue. Behind Nakajima is Pitsonia, Pantano, then Hirate. But look at Hirate having a look. Oh no, it's Pantano having a look at Pitsonia. Couldn't quite squeeze through, but he's really on the charge here. They can all see those points just dangling in front of them. Zuber and Hirate. That's Hirate and Zuber. Hirate and Zuber squabbling with each other. That is the battle for 10th place. Kahei Hirate ahead of Andy Zuber. Just in front of them is the red and white car, Antonio Pitsonia. And Petrov in 6th, Nakajima in 7th at the front of this queue. So this little group of drivers have been battling their way all the way through the field, haven't they? From, below the top 20 on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, we expected that, didn't we? I mean, they're obviously drivers who are normally right at the front, had terrible races yesterday, so therefore qualified right at the back today, and we knew they'd be working their way through the field, which is great, adds to the excitement.
Second, third and fourth. Javi Villa still hanging on to second. Lucas de Grassi still third. And Bruno Senna, yesterday's race winner, still fourth, but Timo Glock, you just saw him turning into the first corner, a long way ahead. Well, Gareth, he took his while building up his lead, but he's 9.5 seconds ahead.
Yeah, I don't think he's changed a great deal. He's been bouncing around the sort of high 130 mark, and the others behind really have been gradually losing just pace, lap after lap, just falling away.
We keep getting shots of Giancarlo Fisichella, his only driver still in the race. Antonio Pizzonia is in 8th at the moment, and he's in the second group of competence. But this is looking like an exciting final 5 laps for these three, because Senna, as you said earlier, is closing on Di Grassi, just as Di Grassi is closing on Via. So the three of them being squeezed up together. And I think Via will do very well if he hangs on to second place here.
I agree. This will be a long 5 laps for him, this.
Yeah, definitely. And here comes Senna now. That might make it interesting. If Senna can get by Di Grassi, I think he'll go even quicker.
I agree again, but getting past is the hard thing, isn't it? And this will really help Via. If these two can fight for a couple of laps, it'll let Via get away and build enough of a buffer to stay in second place to the flag. Definitely.
That'll be what Via has to be praying for now, is that Di Grassi suddenly has to pick up his guard and defend against Senna, and I think that's what might be about to happen, actually. Bruno's not very quick out of that final sequence, and so he's got a lot of work to do on the straight, but towards the end of the lap there, he was looking very close indeed to being within distance of having a shot, but there he's nowhere near close enough.
Which is important for Di Grassi, as long as he can keep Senna at bay on turn 1, that really is where it matters.
Via having a big slide through the first couple of corners, and that might be sending very entertaining signals to Di Grassi, because if he can see the car in front skating through the turns, then he'll be very impressed with that. Petrov doing another great defensive job. I tell you what, they need to start this guy on pole every race and just watch everybody bunch up behind him and enjoy what follows, because Petrov hanging on to that point in 6th position. Sergio Jimenez in front of him, the Brazilian in 5th place. There is Kazuki Nakajima. Well, Nakajima in 7th, and still not quite able to get to grips. And he's got problems as well, because Giorgio Pantano is right behind, and that's sort of taking his focus away a little bit, perhaps, from attacking Petrov, which he was doing very well 2 or 3 laps ago. And he's just sort of slipped away a little bit.
Yeah, Pantano's a man on a mission, isn't he? He's got past Pizzonia, he's worked his way through the field really impressively.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Nakajima's got one eye on his mirrors now.
Well, Pantano from 23rd is 8th. Nakajima from 15th is 7th. So Pantano is the improver of the day so far. What are we seeing here? Luca Filippi has asked a lot of his tyres all the way through the race, and asking just a fraction to he was that
Maldonado, wasn't it? Yeah, with a big old wide, running wide. Wow.
Yes.
On the.
That was one where you take your hands off the wheel and wait for the car to sort itself out, I think. Very probably. Now again, top 3.
This is the Campos sandwich.
Yeah. In fact, yes, you're right. It is the Campos team. Nakajima really having to keep a good weather eye on the mirror, because you don't want to give Pantano too many chances, really, do you?
No, that's right. I mean, it's obviously difficult now. He's had a lot of time to try and get past Petrov and hasn't taken the chance. Now he's got Pantano behind him, and Pantano doesn't take prisoners. He'll be making a move pretty surely. Whoa! A little bit sideways from Pantano as he came off turn 4 there.
Yeah, it's not impossible to overdrive these cars on their tyres, clearly, obviously.
Well, yeah, particularly. I mean, four races, 4 laps to go in the race. It's the tyres are way past their best now.
Well, Pantano knows a lot about racing here. He won with Coloni and with Durango in Formula 3000 in 2002 and 2003. He's not going to win this race, but he's certainly giving a pretty good account of himself, and he's using not only the grey stuff, but pretty much anything else that comes to hand as well. And it's great to have this sustained view of the car behind, actually, because you can really see how much Pantano's car moves around. You've got to control the front, control the back. They do move around a lot, which is something you don't see from a Formula 1 car, because the aerodynamics keep them so locked on track. Now Senna right again in Di Grassi's slipstream and right up his gearbox. but that's all after they've come off the straight, and he needs to be getting much closer. He is much closer now, and De Grassi suddenly having to really defend hard. De Grassi went very wide to the driver's right to make sure there was no way through for Senna, but he's compromised his pace, and Senna is all over him. This is for third place, and Lucas De Grassi, well, we've seen a couple of cars really having a big slide. Almost sense that De Grassi has run right out of tyre or confidence, one or the other in this lap, and Senna now must push it. He really has to force the issue at every turn and just try and get De Grassi to overstep the mark, because if he backs off and lets De Grassi calm down again, then all of those laps of hard work is gone. Not quite close enough, but really enough to put De Grassi on the back foot.
Yeah, we saw yesterday De Grassi's tyres went off really badly towards the last sort of 5 laps of the race, and I think you're right, today it's happened again.
Well, I wonder how much Senna can do here. De Grassi's really struggling for grip. You could see the car jump almost there as he locked up the back deep into the corner, but he's got great drive off there.
He's good at that last turn where it really matters, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Senna's going to get a good tow. Yeah,
I think this time Senna is close enough. We've just seen Timo Glock going through a day and a half ahead of everybody else. Via second, and Senna, yes, he's got to try.
No, it's not close enough.
Just can't quite get there.
Compare that with how much of a tow Glock got from Via when he went past him.
Well, the
gap was very similar.
Yeah, I think though that we pretty much accept that Via got onto the brakes nice and early to let him go.
But he's still got a good tow to get to that position to make Via think, oh, I'll just roll over and let him pass. But
well, De Grassi's not going to roll over here. Definitely, he's going to really fight this one, and Senna's having trouble controlling the car as well. This is great ragged edge of the seat stuff for the last couple of laps, and that's Yamamoto. So the BCN driver is out of it. Yellow flags there for a moment, but that's only localised. So Senna's got to push the point. A lap and a half remain. When he was wrong in that apex, he's just lost a little bit of ground. This is great for Via, though, just as it was getting to the crunch time for him in second place. Suddenly, Senna's electrifying attack on De Grassi has relieved some of that pressure. What can he do? Can Senna push it enough? No, look, you see again, he's losing. His tyres are really giving up now because he's just used them up in that last lap and a half of attack.
Yeah, he did say yesterday, didn't he, for the feature race, the last 3 or 4 laps, his tyres were completely shot.
Yeah.
Terrible vibrations and no grip.
So leader goes on to the last lap then, 24 of 25 completed. This is the final lap of the race. Javi Villa might now be in trouble. Has De Grassi got anything left to show him? Or Villa just having the tiniest hint of a lock-up? He's got to survive one more lap of Barcelona. The win is not in doubt. Timo Glock was 10.5 seconds ahead at the end of the last lap, which means he rolled off the throttle to the margin of over 1.1 seconds just on the penultimate lap alone. So Villa in second place, De Grassi in third, and Senna's got to really give it everything he's got, because De Grassi's car may not stay on the road on this last lap. It really looks as though it's just desperate to throw him off somewhere. And look how much Senna's closing. Here he comes. Now, is he going to have a chance? He's got to try and do him, Gareth, before they get out of that last complex, because he won't beat him on a sprint to the line.
Too far away.
Halfway round.
I think De Grassi actually is in a bit of brake problems too. I've noticed down at the first turn he's getting big clouds of brake dust as he hits the brakes, and he doesn't look confident into that corner we just saw there, which needs good brakes.
Here is our race leader then. Timo Glock has driven from 8th position, and this will undo some of perhaps the disappointment of not winning yesterday's race. He claims victory in the sprint race in Barcelona by a comfortable margin. Victory for Timo Glock, and that gets the second place monkey off his back, and the run to the flag. Senna pulls out, but he does not get De Grassi. It's Villa second, De Grassi third, Senna fourth by 0.1 of a second. That is close, and somebody didn't make it round the final corner. And who is that? Oh, that is who is that?
It's just Maldonado.
Maldonado. Yeah. Well, Maldonado will not finish 13th then. Unlucky to not finish 13th. He goes off into the hoardings. So Glock victorious, 3 second positions so far this season, and now a race win, never not on the podium. And Pastor Maldonado, well, again, he needs just to get that slight streak of desperation out of his race weekends, because otherwise it will continue all season long. And Javi Villa, well, he looks as happy as if that was a race win, doesn't he? And I think if you offered him second position at the start of the race, he'd have said, yep, I'll get out of the cockpit and take that, thank you very much indeed.
Yep, definitely. I mean, his teammate Jimenez didn't really feature, did he? Sort of down in 5th place.
Yeah. He was very much on his own, Jimenez. He was 13 seconds behind Senna, but in the end, 0.7 ahead of Pantano. So Pantano closed the gap right up to Jimenez, nearly got 5th place, but Giorgio Pantano, 6th position from 23rd on the grid. And you can't argue with that sort of progress. It does show, although we had a couple of cars going off and not starting and so on, that in these cars you can overtake if you want to. Well, there's a moment of celebration from Timo Glock and the iSport team. Well, pretty much at the moment, get off the brakes, get away from the grass and away from the pit wall. You would have to say pretty much they are the de facto GP2 benchmark in terms of performance, aren't they?
Yeah, and credit to them for working hard to get there. You know, I mean, ART were the target and they've caught the target and surpassed it. So, and justice for today. I mean, Glock was definitely the fastest man comfortably all weekend. So, justice result.
And tough for Andy Zuber as well, from 25th to 9th place, not quite close enough to get into the points, but it is the devil's own job to get into the points here. Look how the nationalities worked out as well. Germany, Spain, 3 Brazilians, Italian, Japanese, and then another Brazilian, and Andy Zuber, the Austrian 9th position. But again, like Pizzonia and Pantano, to come so strongly through the field really speaks volumes of their commitment and the pace you can wrestle out of these cars. So Timo Glock will be absolutely delighted with that. Kazuki Nakajima showing us once more some electrifying pace. Oh, look at this, the run up to the line. Whoa, that's where they got by. Was that Hirati slowing or something? I'm not sure who that was. That may well have been, might have been Maldonado slowing. We'll have to wait and see. You know, there's Maldonado going off in the closing corners.